Okay. Welcome to Feasibility Friday. I am Mike. Oh, hey, Kyle. Welcome. I'm Mike. It'll be interesting. I'm on a few hours of sleep from a sick toddler, so bear with me here. Today, we're going to be looking at a K through 8 school example that I modeled in Arcol. It's pre-modeled, but I'll show you what it looks like with options and stuff. What I really want to get into is showing you subcounts, which is a newer feature we have in our metrics, some new modeling tools we just added, some detailed costing that we're exploring at the moment in terms of a new feature. And then just again, as always, the overall, this is our goal, this is what it does. So I always do this, quick note on vibes. You can't unmute yourselves, you can't share your screens or anything like that, but there's the chat. So if you have questions anywhere along the way, feel free to interrupt me with questions in the chat. I do not want this to be me speaking at you webinar kind of thing. I would much rather it be like a live stream or just a conversation kind of thing. A bit about me. So I lead product at Arcol. I've been there right from the very beginning. I was employee 2. I am the one Canadian on the team. I had a life in architecture prior to startups and tech, and this is my 3rd startup now. Okay, so getting into Arcol, the workflow that we see today, Arcol is targeted specifically at feasibility. And so today, firms we chat with, the common thread is that there is no single workflow. And so some firms at feasibility stage will use blocks in AutoCAD connected to Excel. Some use Revit or combined with SketchUp for modeling. Some use Rhino. And actually, even within the same firm, what we hear over and over again is basically, oh, teams can choose what they're most comfortable with, what they're most efficient with. And everybody agrees that it would be very helpful and nice to conglomerate onto a single common tool firm-wide. So that's what we're here for. Arcol makes feasibility faster. You'll see in a second here as I get into it, but we're really great at going from 0 to 1 in a project and giving you an immediate glance at what you're going to get out of a project with all the numbers behind it, so that then you can make really important decisions early on with your client, go, no-go decisions, working with subs early, stuff that is more expensive the longer you wait. So problems we solve, more than this, of course, but some big ones that we hear over and over again. So site context. Again, there's a mishmash of how people do that today. It's a lot of screenshotting Google Maps, a lot of manual modeling in context buildings around it. We do that in kind of a single click, and you'll see that in a second here. The metrics I've been talking about a bunch already. So while you design, having square footages, unit counts, costs, all that stuff that you care about and that may live separately in an Excel file today, or is just not present at all while you're modeling, and then you have to kind of do double checks and revising. That's all solved in Arcol. Real-time collaborative design and iteration. So we're browser-based, which means I can send a link to anybody. They can hop in the file with me, and in real time, you can see the changes everybody's making. There's no syncing, there's no saving. Something that comes up repeatedly and we hear more and more often is that firms are moving towards live iteration in calls with clients, basically having the model open, talking through it and making changes on the fly. So you can do that. Of course, you could have the client even in there if you want to, and they could be seeing what you're doing actually in the model environment. And again, you pair that up with the metrics and the costing stuff, and it becomes really powerful in terms of getting trust from your client and making those decisions in real time. Live link documentation. So that's another piece here. It's just another part of the tool set people currently have. They may kick stuff out into InDesign for presentation docs, or if they are doing some stuff in Revit, then generally they're kind of okay. But we do have a documentation environment as well. And it's all live linked. So you can have your metrics numbers, you can have your model views, and all those always are updating. So you know that everything in your project and all the way through to your presentation docs are fully synced all the time. So what makes this different? Of course, there are other feasibility tools. I'm sure you've looked at some others before. Documentation I was just talking about. to my knowledge, we're one of the only ones, feasibility-wise, that do that, and that sets us apart as a different tool. Even in terms of, you don't have to use presentation docs. You can use it at the early stages for what you might use a Miro board or any whiteboarding tool for. So we consider ourselves end to end. You can start earlier in the design workflow. So we give you unit counts as you're assigning areas, 1 bedroom unit, 2 bedroom unit, stuff like you would typically do in an area plan. But even before that, a lot of people we talk to, especially in multifamily, they'll have an Excel doc where they're putting in unit sizes, a unit mix, and it's just doing some math and spitting out counts of units based on those numbers. We do that too, but connected to your model. So you don't have to have Excel, SketchUp, and try and mash them together. You can right from the get-go do all of that in Arcol and know that it's more accurate that way. Customization and flexibility. We hear repeatedly that something as simple as being able to style your context buildings, for example, I can show you that. That's something people really like because, of course, every firm has their own style of diagrams and drawings and stuff like that. And we're actually putting in quite a bit of effort in the near future into expanding that and giving you even more control over the graphics of your scene and the styling of it. Usability, ease of learning. So that you'd have to be the judge when you try that yourself, but we spend a lot of time and care on the craft of making the tool solid, easy to use, easy to understand. We do hear that repeatedly as well, that even the way we lay out our metrics and display them, even compared to other tools that have similar metrics, people just like the way that we present information and the way that we organize things. And then performance. So again, we're browser-based. We know we're going to be compared to desktop tools. And if we are at all less performant, that's no good. And we know that people kind of come into browser-based tools often with an expectation that it'll be worse performance. And so we work really hard to make it better than a lot of desktop experiences. And with that, let me just see. Yep, that's my last slide. So I'll hop in here now. So I'll also mention, usually these webinars are about an hour long. Today will be shorter. It'll probably be like a half an hour. I'm happy to stay however long if you guys have questions, but I won't take too much of your time. So here's that school project I talked about. It's got all the Arcol stuff going on. So each of these are buildings. So I've got a building made up of floors. We have other videos you can find on YouTube that go in depth on this whole process. I'm not going to do that today, but you've got a building here split into floors with different floor plans assigned. And then within those floor plans, different areas assigned. So I've got all my classrooms, and these are science rooms, and I've got a corridor, all that stuff. The first thing I mentioned I want to talk about is subcounts. So I'm getting a bunch of data already. I'm getting my site area calculated. If I flip over, I can see my facade area and my FAR calculated. I'm getting, of course, all my square footages for those areas and all my unit counts for those areas. This is really important, especially for education, of course, because you have this spec that comes from Department of Education saying we need 4 first grade classrooms and they need to be this certain size to meet our brief requirement. And so you can check all of that data in here against your spec. That's kind of a thing we're working on immediately next as well, which maybe in the next webinar I can show, is being able to actually input your targets in your brief here, and then having the metrics compared against the targets while you design in real time. And then having it notify you when you've not met your brief. But anyway, I've got my parking requirements, parking calculated here based off of this parking lot I've got. I'll get to costing in a second. I could do carbon if I want to, but subcounts was the thing I talked about. So we actually built subcounts, the feature, as a request from a firm that typically does K-12 design. It is flexible. You can use it in any typology, but the request was specifically around, I want to know the total number of students that I've got. And I need to just shrink this up a little bit here. Got Zoom in my way. Sorry. If I drag this, I don't know if you can still see it. Okay, cool. Good. Yeah, having some Zoom weirdness. Okay, so subcounts here. I'll bring it back over in a second, but the request was I want to know how many students in my school. So I can make a subcount here for students. Subcounts are again just simple math, but it's basically a count on a count. So I have a subcount here, and I'm going to say for every first grade classroom, I don't know the actual counts, but say 30 students for each one of these kinds of classrooms. So I go through here and say 30, 30, 30, whatever my counts are typical per classroom. I won't go through all of them, but maybe, kindergarten maybe is a little bit smaller, and 6th to 8th class maybe is a little bit bigger. And all it's going to do is for every unit that's counted, so for every first grade classroom, it will multiply it by the subcount of 30. And now when I scroll down here, I can see based off what I've input here so far, I have 1,100 students in my subcount. So we had a post on LinkedIn recently that you could look up. I used this to do like a count of servers in a data center. You could use it for occupants in multifamily. If you really want to go hardcore, you could assign like how many doors and windows per unit type you have in like multifamily or something like that. And you could very early on have a door and window count. These are completely flexible, whatever you want them to be. Yeah, bring that back over. So that's subcounts. Great. Area types and subcounts are powerful. Is there an ability to capture them in a library, easily share them across projects? Yes. Okay. So yes, 100%. And actually, I can show you that right now. So if I come in here, let's just go to a new project. So I have at the top of this, it says school. This is a preset that I've applied. So all my settings here, it actually goes even more in detail. So all of the area types I've created, the building functions I've created, all the assigned colors, the subcounts, if there's unit mix assigned, all that stuff can be saved as a preset and published out. So then here, for example, if I'm doing a data center, I go here. This is just warning me if I had a project already, it would override those settings. That's fine. And now I have that preset applied. Okay, Zoom is really annoying me. Okay. And if I come in here, now I've got, yeah, it's all ready to go. So whatever my firm standards are, they're ready to go right off the bat, to answer your question. Now, in terms of the next thing, so that's subcounts. The other thing I mentioned is more detailed costing. So down here in our costing section, you see there's some pretty granular numbers. Those are coming from, and like I say, this is a pretty new feature. So if you see stuff and you go, this is awesome, but I'd like to see this, please reach out, let us know. This is currently in development. You've got all of your buildings. So I actually have 4 buildings on site that I've modeled. 2 of them are existing. That's why there's no cost. I'll show you in a second. You could assign a renovation cost or something. But these 2 buildings here, so that's new addition and existing addition is what I've called them. I can dig in and get pretty detailed. So I can assign costs for glazing, facade, core, corridor, and further to that, I can say, okay, what kind of structural system is it? What kind of interior wall system is it? What's my window to wall ratio? And within that, there's assumptions that are being made. So it's obviously not going to be as granular at the moment as if you hand it over to an estimator sub and say, please estimate this. But the idea is that very early on, you have pretty good intelligence into costing to have discussions around changes that you could make. So you can see here, there's stud spacing I can manipulate, cost per stud, and it's just telling me how it's mathing out the cost for that. I think the most complicated one we have at the moment is concrete. Yeah, so it's making assumptions around column spacing, column dimensions, slab thickness, and then your concrete cost, your cubic cost. So pretty powerful. And so that's at the building level. I mentioned you can get into, if I want to say what's my basic renovation cost for existing, I'd have to make a new function for it first. So let's do that. Say existing, and I'll have to apply it to these. So those are all existing, and maybe I don't want that to be purple. Where's existing in here? Oh, I know what I did. Okay, here it is. Maybe I want it to be just gray or white or whatever. Sure. Okay, so now I've got this function, and then actually I should have done it when I made the function, but in here I can say this is like a high level average cost. So say for renovation costs, that's what we're doing here. We're going to allocate uh, $200 a square foot. And so now if I come back down to my cost, now I've got those buildings have some costs associated because they've got that cost per foot. I could also, if I wanted to, um, say in the case of these classrooms, I've assigned a cost for the building structure and the interior walls, but maybe I want like a typical finishing cost or something like that. And maybe it could vary, right? Because the classroom finishing compared to corridor finishing could be different, or even a science classroom. You can also do that all in here. So wherever I'm editing those classrooms, I can do a cost either by area. So again, like high level, what's my square footage for first grade classrooms, multiply by X, or per unit. So a typical classroom is 20 grand or whatever per unit. You can do that as well. And so there's a bunch of different levels that you can apply costing to. Um, like I say, please, we'd love feedback. There's no tool really that does this kind of thing, so we're kind of in new territory, but we want it to be super simple, easy to use, but very helpful at the early stages. Um, so that is costing. Now, we'll detour over to the modeling tools. I'll show you, I guess, first of all. So say we were going to make a new design option for this, really using Arcol, just click the plus. I've got a new option. I want those existing buildings, shrink this down. I want those existing buildings on both options, so and the parking lot probably too. So I'll just select those, have them show on both options. And um, maybe I actually even want, let's do an option where this is actually also the same. And this one, we're going to copy it, but then tweak it. So I just copied it and I'll paste it in place. So they're different things on different options. If I go in here and go into a floor plan view, there's some new stuff here. So first one, this is all pretty basic stuff, but I think you'll appreciate that it's here. So first of all, this, of course, is oriented to true north at the moment, but you may not want that laid out that way on your sheets. It's also kind of annoying to design with because when you're in the pen tool, 90 degrees will be true north rather than relative to your building. You can now set the grid orientation for your view. So align to your X or your Y axis, snap it, and you're done. You can also, rotate 90 degrees either way after that if you want to manipulate it that way, but that's a small change we just made. And then the thing we already had offset. So when I'm sketching in my floor plan here, there's an offset tool that it works exactly like you would expect. That was already there, but now we've enhanced it and added all the other tools that you would imagine. So we've got align, trim, extend, and fillet. And so if I get zoom out of my way again, let's just do a few different lines here. So trim, extend, exactly what you'd expect. The difference in our case, I mean, subtle UX tweaks, but the hints will tell you what to do. So this is the line I want to trim, extend to. It's not a mode like other tools that you kind of are stuck in until you explicitly escape it. If you do a single action, it'll be you're out, you move on to your next thing. If you hold shift, you can do multiples. And when you let go of shift, it'll kick you out. So little product touches there. And then, I mean, I guess I'll show you just so you know it works as expected. But if I want to fillet these things, it's just like you would imagine. There's fillet. And if I want to align things, again, just like you would imagine. So pick here, it aligns them up. Yeah. So that's the new drawing stuff, like a little side detour. I bring it up though, because if you are currently using SketchUp as a tool, obviously it doesn't have this kind of stuff. There is offset in SketchUp, but it doesn't give you this level of drafting granularity, which is super important, right? For creating floor plans and detailed spaces like that. So Um, Coming very soon, I was just QAing it before this. You'll be able to underlay floor plans as well, so you can make sure everything's aligned and snapped between different floors. And so um, that's kind of the two main paths we're on right now are graphics, I mentioned, being able to make your scene exactly how you want it styled and looking, and then just going even deeper and further down the track of detailed modeling and having, hyper accuracy in what you're creating so that the data that comes out of it is good data. Question. Okay, is there a way to move an entire wall face at once after the individual spaces are created? I think it depends what you're asking. So if you mean this entire exterior wall, not at the moment. One of the next things we're doing right away is basically just basic multi-select. That's the main reason you can't do it today. If you're talking walls interior, you can drag any edge at any point after you've created it. And even further than that, you see here, it's similar to Revit. So when you have an edge selected, you get your temporary dimensions showing up. You can type in here whatever dimension, and it'll tweak exactly to what you want. Okay, another question. Are there reference lines that would show up on multiple levels or sketch lines that don't print but can be used to line things up? Aha, no reference lines. Um, the underlay hopefully will solve most of what you need, but we have had people request, yeah, like a detail line, I guess. If it comes up more often, certainly we can look into it. Let me read your question again. That would show up on multiple levels. Right. Okay, so is your question, I guess, to clarify, for the purpose of annotation or specifically to line things up for modeling? Line things up for model. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think underlay will get you what you want. Again, maybe the next webinar I can show it, or we can chat directly. If underlay doesn't get you what you want, then we can explore what else is needed to do that. Cool. Okay. So I guess I didn't actually create a second option, but that's fine. I mean, I could have I was going to show the new tools in that way where I was going to go something like this and then fillet these and delete this edge. Yeah, do that kind of a thing. But you get the gist of it. The last thing I'll show, and please keep the questions coming as you have them, but I always like to show, because I mentioned the documentation side of things, putting these options now onto sheets and boards. That's not new stuff, but I'll show you what it would look like in case you haven't seen it in Arcol before. So like I said, this is a big infinite canvas, same as Miro, Mural, whatever whiteboard tool you have. The difference in our case is that you can add sheets and you can drag views onto your sheets the same way that you would in Revit. It's exactly the same. If I update my model, the view will update. The cherry on top is, like I say, those metrics you can add here. And you got to pick your view. And then let's do, I don't know, say classrooms view. Sure. Classrooms area. This number will always live update. So if I, do something lazy, I'll just add a bunch of floors here. That now has changed. My view has changed. I never have to worry about those being synced. And I can even share those out if I want to as a sheet set. So I've got a link, again, power of browser. You share that with whoever, and they are going to get what looks like a PDF, but this is also a live updating thing. And they can comment on here, which comes back through to your model, or you can download it as a PDF. It's up to you. I also like to mention while I'm talking about this, because we had that question earlier about can you save presets or like, is there a way to template all this stuff? And like I said, yes, you can. You can totally template all of these sheets as well. And you can even template entire sheet sets. So if I'm going to create a new sheet, I have some sheet sets I've already made here that are custom. And if I add it in, it will connect up whatever it can. You can see this is all in Arcol. So I brought in my logo. Here's text in Arcol, made the line in Arcol. It's all done in Arcol. And then the stuff that it couldn't match up, that's what you're seeing here. So this couldn't match anything. It'll give me a hint as to what type of metric it was. This was probably a multifamily template instead, but I can just connect up the data to the new project. And so it's really quick to make design option sets. This could all be a single design option. If I copied and pasted the whole sheet set, I could just come through and swap my views well, I don't have views made for my other design option, but you just come here and pick your design option views that you want for the second set. So really quick, really straightforward. And with that, I think that's a good spot for today. So we talked through subcounts, we talked through costing, we talked through the new modeling tools, and then like I mentioned, on the roadmap in the future, coming up soon is more graphics flexibility and tweakability, more detailed modeling, and then of course any other requests that come up along the way. Like I guess one bonus content thing that we just added is a little thing, but if you have stairs or core or something you need on multiple floor plans, you can right click on any of these spaces, copy to other floors, and it's a really easy way to copy things across your building. Cool. Any questions as I start to wrap up? I'll give it like a minute for questions while I orbit around and show off Arcol a little more. Okay, awesome. So in closing then, if you are interested in this, of course, we'd love to talk to you in any capacity. I always like chatting. And so you can go to arcol.io, book a demo. Info@arcol.io is our email. If you want to reach me personally, it's mike@arcol.io. Like I say, we'd be happy to chat anytime, get you set up in the tool, trying it out. We can talk more detailed about your specific typology and templates your firms might need and all that kind of stuff. So that's all. Thanks for joining, everyone. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend, and see you on the next one.